Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Cisner. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. I hope you've all been enjoying the day so far. I'd like to take a minute to share with you a little bit about our partners and why they're so important to the symposium. The Council is a nonpartisan convening institution. We view it as our role to bring people together to share ideas. On a day like today, we seeked out other institutions who work daily on global health issues, institutions that have much to add to the debate and that you can learn from. These institutions have also been very helpful in reaching out to some of those who benefit most from days like today, our students. From our first year, we made it a priority to invite as many students as we could who are affected by these topics or trying to build a career in the field to come as our guests. For these reasons, I would like to take a moment to quickly name our partners for this year. AmeriCares, American Board of Medical Specialists, American Red Cross, CARE, Caring for Cambodia, Chicago Battered Women's Network, Chicago Says No More, CI3, Concern Worldwide, DePaul College of Science and Health, GenYouth, Girl Up United Nations Foundation, GlobeMed, Heartland Alliance, Heshima Kenya, Hesperian Health Guides, ICRW, K4 Health, yes, the list is still going, Options for Youth, Project Cure, Rotary, the University of Chicago Center for Global Health, the University of Chicago Lab Schools, 30 Million Words, UIC Global Health Program School of Public Health, UNICEF, United Nations Association of the United States of America, USAID, YWLCS, and 4W, University of Wisconsin-Madison. A big round of applause for all of our partners. Thank you. We now have our final panel of the day, and I'd like to ask Ashley McCall, a member of our steering committee for Women in Global Development here at the Chicago Council, to please introduce our speakers. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. I have some prepared notes, but I want to take a few minutes just to reflect on this morning's program, which was astounding to me and inspiring, and I hope the same for you. I attend many programs at the Council, but certainly this symposium is one of my favorites. It continues to grow, it continues to evolve and attract really extraordinarily talented and accomplished women, many of whom are here today and have shared their stories and shared their work. As I think about this morning and some of the panels that we have seen and some of the breakout sessions that we've all attended, we each have come here for our own unique reasons. But I firmly and strongly believe that there is a consistent thread that unites us, and that is our desire, our shared desire to affect positive change for women and girls around the world, and I think we can do that. The statistics can often be staggering, the problems are daunting, and I think we have to look beyond those numbers and at the people behind them. And in fact, I would urge you, when it seems sort of too overwhelming, to just look at even focusing at one person. Never underestimate the significant and very powerful ripple effect that influencing the life of one person can have in the greater global world. My family has had the privilege of living side by side with resettled refugees in our home, young refugees, and I am reminded on a daily basis of the profound impact just one generous gesture of help or kindness can have on a human being. That's just coming from an individual and a family. If we took our collective power and used that for the greater good, we would have, we would change the world, and we can change the world. And I think that what we have heard today is that we cannot live and operate in sort of these disparate pockets, but we do need to work together, and I think we can do that. I'm also would concur. I'm thrilled to see that there are so many students here today. My daughter, who is a human rights activist and had the opportunity to introduce one of the panels today, is constantly talking about the fact that your generation has been founded in many ways on a technology that has not been available to many of us as we were growing up, certainly as I was growing up. And so you're global citizens of this very interconnected world. And that allows you to have an experience that, as a generation, that many of us haven't had. And we will learn from you, and you will carry forward on these missions and in this work. So thank you, one, for being here, and secondly, stay engaged, embrace the causes, and go out and energize your peers as well. So the panel today, I'm delighted that I'm able to introduce this next and last panel. It's a nice way to sort of summarize what the day has been, I think. This particular panel is A Lasting Difference, Sports, Safety, and Training Future Leaders. The benefits from sound nutrition in the first 1,000 days to staying active and safe after school extend well beyond the individual and really actively change the fabric of society. And that's something that we need to remember. And we've heard that a lot today. It's been a consistent theme. Globally, girls face far greater challenges than their male counterparts, and that is because they do not have the same access to the critical resources that they need. One of the most effective ways to keep girls safe and engaged and healthy and happy is by offering them opportunities to participate in structured activities. The rewards are many, and I think today our panelists are going to discuss ways of empowering young girls to become healthy and confident leaders through participation, through engagement, through hard work, be it on the fields, soccer fields in Iran, or be it in schools around the country. And programs around the country. Our first panelist today, or one of our panelists today, is Alexis Glick. She has an extraordinarily impressive bio, and I would say it was well worth your while to Google her, because it's far more than I could ever highlight here. But she's had an incredibly successful career on Wall Street. She's a veteran reporter. She is a frequent guest and contributor to many networks, cable news programs, and national radio stations. Currently, she is the CEO of GenYouth Foundation. This is a nonprofit organization dedicated to nurturing child health and wellness through improved nutrition and physical activity. And through their flagship program, Fuel Up, to Place 60, it reaches and empowers today's youth in over 73,000 schools. And I think that's an amazing number, 73,000 schools. Our next panelist, and if I sort of saw through your name, I apologize, is Katayoun Khosrowyar. She joins us from Iran. And again, an amazing woman, and I watched her TEDx talk last night, and I think if you have the time, you should do so, because it shares her remarkable journey from Oklahoma to Iran, from the soccer fields here to a continent away, and from being a soccer player to becoming a leader and what is now being called a quiet revolution through soccer for women and girls in Iran. And it's a pretty amazing story. She's played for and captained the Iran women's national soccer team. She's inspired thousands of young women and girls. She's now leading the next generation of soccer players, coaching the national under 16 and 14 girls teams. And our moderator today is Jennifer Scanlon. Jennifer's an executive vice president at USG Corporation. She also sits and is a member of the board of directors for the Council on Global Affairs. So I welcome them all here, and I hope you enjoy this last lecture and panel and enjoy your lunches, and we'll come back for questions after they speak.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure for us to be here today, and there's such a strong connection between health and safety, and so we at USG Corporation are thrilled to be part of this entire event. USG was named one of America's safest companies, and we certainly know that sports are one way to keep girls very safe and healthy, and so that's what we're here to talk about today, is that connection. And I think we have two very inspiring women on stage with me. And I'd like to get started with both Kat and Alexis giving a little bit of their background of what initially inspired them to get involved in this level of sports. And so, Kat, you've been credited with leading a quiet revolution in Iran. And you've been doing that by empowering girls, young girls, through soccer. And soccer, or football as it's known in the rest of the world, is really, it's a game of discipline, it's a game of beauty, it's a game of peace. There's a lot of strength and teamwork and leadership, and I think those are all characteristics that we all aspire. But how did you first get involved, and how did you first really become the leader that you are in this incredible program?
This is probably the most important question, because it's about where it all started. And it's probably a good place to start that and mentioning about family. If it wasn't for my father and my older sister, who were very active in their respective sports, swimming, I wouldn't have not inherited these types of skills, which is confidence and strength. Every time you play a bad game, the people who are closest to you are going to pick you back up and say, it's okay, you're going to train harder, and you're going to go back out there next time, and you're going to do a much better job. And for me, I was able to eventually compare myself with my friends from school and what they were doing. Mainly, as you were getting older in middle school and high school, girls are getting into makeup, into boys, into going to parties. Whereas for me, coming from an Iranian background, it was education, education, education. So we did not have much of a social life, but we really had to push for it to go out. And my father was very adamant about us going to training and going to our games and staying on top of our schedule and being very active in the community and also in our household.
And Alexis, you are CEO of an incredible organization, GenYouth, which is one of the largest health and wellness programs for students across the United States. And you've got a couple of amazing programs, in particular, Fuel Up to Play 60. So tell us a little more about this program and what motivated you to become as involved in this very important foundation.
So, you know, I think very much like Kat, it starts with your family. And I jokingly was the kid growing up who I used to call it, because I grew up in New York City, in the concrete jungle. When you live in Manhattan, we used to call it that because you could only play on the streets of New York City. The sport was basketball. And so I was a huge basketball player and worked my way up to being an all-city basketball player. And just, there was nothing I was more passionate about. And to your point, all the skill sets that you develop by playing with a team, by learning how to lose, learning to win, perseverance, overcoming the odds. And I came from a middle-class Irish Catholic family, and so it was the outlet in the community. It was the place to go. It was the thing to do. But it taught me so many skill sets that today I use in my career as CEO, and that I used in my career in Wall Street media before running this philanthropy. We are blessed. GenYouth does run the largest health and wellness program in the country. There are approximately 100,000 schools in the United States. Our program, Fuel Up to Play 60, is in 73,000 of those schools. We reach 38 million kids a day. And Fuel Up to Play 60 is exactly as it sounds. It's about fueling up. What do we do to ensure that when our kids step inside the school building, they are fueled and ready to learn? Have they been given a proper breakfast? If they haven't, are they participating in the school breakfast program? Are they a recipient of the school lunch program? Are they kids who are food insecure, and without that lunch, they would have no nutrition? So we focus very much on the importance of fueling up, and equally as much on the importance of Play 60. Play 60 is really about the notion, I would argue, of telling everyone in this country that kids not only need to be active for 60 minutes a day, it is their right, it is necessary, and it's necessary to their ability to learn. So when we created this program, Fuel Up to Play 60, in fact, I would argue the greatest blessing of it is it was paired together with some of the most unlikeliest of partners. It's a partnership between 50,000 of America's dairy farmers in every corner of this country. And it is partnered with the National Football League, all 32 NFL clubs, NFL players, and alumni. The most unlikeliest of suspects, but it has been since its inception a true public-private partnership with the notion that what can we do in the school building to empower students to be their own change agents? And how can we, by bringing in the equity of the farmer in your community or the NFL player in your backyard, to help kids understand the importance of being active and being healthy, not only on the implications on their academic performance and on their health, but on being future ready, what it means for that next stage in life. And so we are now 5 years since our inception at GenYouth. The program has been in the school building since a couple years before we actually came together as a foundation, and we're pretty proud that we now reach 38 million kids.
It's terrific. Well, a lot of the panels this morning talked about the connection that it's not just women's health, but the connection of the men and the boys in the communities, of being involved in ensuring safety, security, and health of women. And so, Alexis, your program targets both boys and girls. And so are you uncovering ways to create a stronger bond between the male support in the community and the advancement of young women in sports?
It's a terrific question, because as a mother, I'm a mother of 4 young children, and the last of the 4 is a girl. So she's watching her 3 older brothers. Since the day she came out of the womb, she's been in a hockey rink, a lacrosse field, soccer field. Oh, she's going to be in therapy for the rest of her life. But I'll tell you, we focus a lot on that, and we think about it a lot because we work with these superstar NFL athletes, and so we worry a lot about how are we influencing girls, and are they feeling empowered by our message. I'll give you just one example. It's an example I'm so deeply proud of. We initiated an effort with the NFL a year and a half ago. The commissioner of the NFL was very strong-willed about the fact that Alexis Place 60 is about kids being active for 60 minutes a day. This is not about us pushing football. We want kids to have access to sport. And in fact, probably one of the #1 most activated ways in which we work with girls, and they choose to get active in the school building, is through dance. It is absolutely, hands down, one of the #1 things girls like to do. But about a year and a half ago, we sat down and we said, what if we instituted a flag football initiative? Okay, just the notion of flag. I told a story sitting in the NFL offices when I was a kid at recess. I used to love at recess, you know, you're like 8, 9 years old, and you see the boys in the recess, and they're throwing, you know, like a Nerf football, a soft football. It's not hard, but you want to kind of get in the mix with the boys. So, you know, I remember as a kid the fun of being in recess and playing with them. So we go ahead, we create this initiative called basically Flag Essentials, in which we provide a kit to schools across the country. We opened up the distribution and we offered it up to our 73,000 schools a year ago last September. We had a finite amount. We said, we're going to open this up and announce it at kickoff. Within 24 hours, those kits that included a curriculum, the equipment students need, the recognition they deserve, and the training for PE teachers across the country, they were sold out within 24 hours. We went back and we did it this past May. We doubled down, made another big investment, sold out in 48 hours. Schools raised their hand from every corner of this country saying, we want it. And when the statistics came back, we've now done 2 years of research. The research was staggering on the participation of girls in flag football. And in fact, in one of the largest school districts in this country, in Miami-Dade, as a result of what we did with them in the school building, 600 girls raised their hand and said, if we had the equipment, we would want to play in after-school flag leagues. They created 30 middle school varsity teams in Miami-Dade that 600 girls are playing in today. Now, is that killer? I love that story. And I say that because what we found is the reason they love it is the confidence it gives them. They talk about being empowered. They love the competitiveness of it. And one of the things they love about it is with the game of flag is you can really play with and make up your rules. But it's the camaraderie that it brings them and this sense of empowerment around how they're choosing to play the game. So we think about that all the time. And I love the anecdotal stories that we get in school districts across the country about the girls showing the boys how to play the game. And I think it's created a lot of fodder. You know, it's really been so wonderful to see it come to life.
I think that's terrific. And I think Kat has a similar but different experience around this. I know from watching your TED Talk that your father was very instrumental in encouraging you to get involved in soccer. And how has your involvement now in Iran really extended into the influence of male perceptions of women's abilities in Iran and furthering that relationship between the two genders?
Well, up until last November, men would usually be like, come on, why are you playing? Go back home, cook, make a living for yourself. Let these fields be for the men. And I'm just like, just wait, give me a few months. So after my Nepal trip, where I was in the middle of an earthquake, the government had decided to bring men along with women teams in case anything happened so they can help. So they didn't. So whenever one gentleman who's a very recognizable and known man in the football world came to train with us, at the beginning he would stay on the side of the field and would not enter, let alone look. Whenever we're playing, his head was the other side. Whenever we're looking at him, his head the other side. So not much attention until he saw a game. Whenever this guy saw a game, forget me, he did not even know I was the coach. Get out of my way. I need to go coach them. I need to get involved. This is amazing. I had no idea women can play, let alone kick a ball. So I'm like, all right, please enter the field. You can coach as much as you like. And this guy has been now a big advocate for women's football. He has been traveling with us. He's been speaking with government officials about opening women football schools because he's like, women are the future of this game in Iran, and we need to make sure we teach them at a very, very young age. Like I was trained at 5, 6 years old. I want to be able to work with men to help promote this game all over the country. And it's becoming very beautiful, and it's becoming an open paved path that we have finally created for men to get involved, because now fathers are more comfortable of going out to the park with their daughters and helping them and training them as well. So far we are on the right path. I know it took a long time, but we're finally doing it.
Well, there's a lot of things that take a long time, and Title IX here in the United States, which prohibits sex discrimination in any educational program that receives any type of federal financial aid, was enacted first 40 years ago. And we've made significant progress and tremendous achievement, but it's been a long time and a winding path. I know, Kat, you've had a winding path in getting your team on the international stage, and you've had to deal with some regulations and some challenges. Can you talk about how you've approached and overcome some of those challenges on the international stage?
Well, first and foremost, Iran was the first women's national team that had to cover up from head to toe, minus the face. For the world, in the football world, FIFA just came up with a plan to make women's foot soccer more recognizable and more popular. And he pretty much quoted that maybe if girls wear shorter shorts and tighter shirts, they can get more attention. And then all of a sudden, here comes the Iran national team, ninjas. So we totally went against what he was wanting, but whether he liked it or not, we were actually gaining a lot of fame in the football world. And in Asia, where we are under the Asian Football Confederation Association, they didn't mind. Whenever we were traveling across Asia and Vietnam, Sri Lanka, at first people were like, whoa, who are these people? And then they're like, okay, now we understand. They're playing football just like us. We're all football players here, no difference. And then it came to the 2012 Olympic qualifications. And so we go outside, we're warming up, come back into the locker room, we're chanting and screaming and like singing motivational songs with each other. not dancing. A fourth official from FIFA comes to us, and she was actually Bahraini, who also speaks Farsi. And in Farsi, she tells us, girls, I'm sorry, but you cannot play today. And all of us were totally confused. Like, why bring us here? Why make us come out of school or work to come here to train for the last X amount of years, and all of a sudden say, no, you cannot get on the field? So after a lot of negotiating with them, they said at the end of the day, no. Upon FIFA regulation, scientifically, it was proven that it is a health hazard for women to play with hijab. That was the case. So we went on the field, and instead of playing, we had to forfeit, lost 3-0, and there goes the dreams of playing in the Olympics. Even till this day, all my teammates that were with me, we are still like very heartbroken about it, but it's okay, it happens, it's life. It's just you have to pick up from where you started. Now, most of my teammates were now becoming future coaches and future leaders in our communities. And it took about 2 years of courts and system changing and convincing that it's not as bad as it seems playing with a hijab. And with the help of the Prince Ali of Jordan, who was a nominee for FIFA presidency, and unfortunately he lost, I'm sorry, he really pushed forward to change the laws that women who are Muslim or play with the hijab should play with the hijab if they have to. And after 2 years, I'm proud to say that we can play now internationally.
Brilliant.
It's a great story. Well, I know you've both addressed ways in which you've overcome some of the perceptions about what girls' roles in sports can be. And I know that frequently, when you look back on the history of even Title IX here in the US, one of the major oppositions or challenges had to do with funding. And so, Alexis, can you talk about how your organization ensures that you have the funding, both for the breakfasts and the kits and the sporting events that help keep this movement going?
It's the number one thing that keeps me up at night. And I'll tell you why. I just want to contextualize this for a moment, because oftentimes we talk, particularly in the United States, about what's happening in developing countries. And I just want to give you a sense for just a moment of what's going on in your own backyard. If you look at it, there's roughly 55 million kids in the school system. Approximately 35 million of them participate in a free and reduced lunch program. And yet, just about a third, give or take, of those kids who participate in lunch participate in the breakfast program. And yet, it is offered to the majority of our schools in this country, almost 90% of the schools. Here's the problem. We have 16 million kids who are food insecure. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal. So if the only meal they consume is the school lunch meal, that, for an average kid in the United States, accounts for 50% of their daily caloric intake. Let me add one other factor. For some kids in this country, they eat lunch at 10:30. For some kids in this country, they eat lunch at 2 o'clock. Now let me just challenge you to think about that for a second. Imagine waking up in the morning, you don't have your cup of coffee. You don't have what it is to fuel you for the day. You have nothing in your body until 2 o'clock. Then ask yourself, would you be prepared to learn? How can you thrive in those conditions? How can you excel academically? We have to change that. That's one problem. Now let's just talk for a second about the physical activity. I'm going to throw a statistic out at you, and then I'm going to ask you how many people knew this. Just if you look at physical education, only 4% of elementary school students, 8% of middle school students, and 3% of high school students participate in daily PE in the United States. How many people are surprised by that? Right? The majority of your hands are going up. Because we have a crisis in physical inactivity. And then we ask ourselves, why do we have issues around sedentary behavior, obesity, diabetes, what the healthcare implications are, what the workforce ready implications are. So when I go out and look at funding, and I beg and plead, and I tell folks I'll get on any plane and I'll go anywhere across this country to bring more people to the table, because we cannot just lean on the government. It has to be about the public-private partnership. Now, I am blessed that those 50,000 dairy farmers across this country, they are the ones who spawned and created. They are the ones who invested. The people who work 24 hours a day on those farms that you drive by, they're the ones who spawned the investment in this program. Now, we are blessed to work with 3 different government agencies. We work with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We work with Health and Human Services. We work with the Department of Education. In fact, we were blessed to just make an announcement in San Francisco at Super Bowl, a $35 million commitment to provide equipment grants to schools across this country, thanks to our partnership with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It was a groundbreaking moment for us. But what I will say is, we need corporate America to be at the table. We've got the blueprint for success. We know how to increase participation rates in breakfast. We know how to get kids active for the 60 minutes a day, whether that's before, during, or after school. But what we do need is more business leaders in more communities to say, I want to work side by side in my community with my schools, because I'm investing in this next generation. And I say, when I travel across the country, and we've been blessed, we have a lot of great big partners, the likes of technology giants like SAP and Microsoft. We have partners like Nike. We have partners here in your backyard like Quaker Oats. We've been very, very lucky. But we're constantly pounding the pavement. And when I step into the doors of these funders, whether they be big corporations, little businesses, whether they be individuals, is I want you for just a second, when you're thinking about human resources, to think about why K through 12 is your prevention mechanism for your human resources. Prevention starts in the K through 12 environment. Your HR investment should be in the investment of those kids in your backyard, in your communities, because far too many of them are not getting the nutrients, the access, and the activity that they need to be successful. And then we ask ourselves why we're not performing as well in science and math, and I could go on and on. You get my drift.
Well, and along those lines, I'm very curious, Kat, what type of challenges, either around funding or availability of food security or other environmental situations, have you had to overcome to fuel your young teams in Iran?
The fact that we even exist right now is a miracle. The Iranian government, under them is the sports ministry, and the sports ministry has funds to allocate money to 40 different federations. So, and in all those federations, you have the men's side and the women's side. So a very small amount will trickle down to the women's side. But for what it has been happening, a lot has been able to also develop. AFC and FIFA, they have a specific fund just for women. I don't know how much of that really goes to women, but the amount that does go to women is enough for us to be able to have 6 national teams, a league, and all the players are paid. Right now, since the sanctions have been almost lifted, 90%, we're still waiting for US and Iran to mend their relationship, people are going to need outside financing, because in Iran, there's a population of 80 million people, half women, half men. And between the 50 million women that are right now there, a good majority of them want to be able to be more active in sports. They want to be able to have places to go. We have a lot of gyms and whatnot, but those are privately based, but we want something much bigger, on a bigger scale, to be able to see one day the Iran national teams in various sports, in World Cups and Olympics. But for that, you need to have strong finance. And right now, Iran does not have the strongest finance even for themselves, let alone for men's sports and women's sports. But it's a long-term decision that needs to be made, but right now we are looking for outside sponsorship, because with the outside sponsorship comes also the education that comes with it. What will they do with this money? Where will it be allocated? Towards the education programs of the players, or towards the education programs for coaches? So this is a problem that we have to tackle within the next couple of years in order to see advancement in our women programs.
Excellent. Well, I know the audience is probably itching to ask questions, but before we get to the open Q&A, I'd like to ask each of you to either share a story of someone that your organization has really influenced that has been extraordinarily meaningful to you, or share your vision for what you hope your organization will look like 10 years out. And I'll let you decide who wants to go first on this one.
Okay, I'm going first. Those are tough questions. No, I have so many personal examples of people that I've been so inspired by. I'm laughing a little bit because there's this one kid. I think I'm never going to forget him. His name is Josh Miller, and he lives in Minneapolis. And I remember the first time that I met him. He was joining me on a trip because he had been selected among tens of thousands of kids across the country to participate in this new program we had created, Adventure Capital. And it's all about giving kids the opportunity to solve for their own nutrition or physical activity solution. And he created his own business plan. So because of my Wall Street days, I called Warren Buffett, who I've known for many years, and I asked him what he thought about the program, and he said, "Great, Glick, bring your top 5 kids." So I bring my top 5 students after a nationwide process of selecting these kids, and Josh shows up. And Josh shows up in a pinstripe suit. We go into Warren Buffett's office. It's the top 5 kids, myself, and Warren. And he spends about an hour with us advising the kids. And at the end, Josh turns to him and says, listen, Mr. Buffett, if you ever need to reach me or would like to discuss further my plans for my project, here's my business card. So I bring him up, but I will tell you that on that same trip, we had a young boy from the Bronx who was with us, whose mother was terminally ill, and who was dealing with a whole host of personal issues. And so I can tell you that I try to tell the most heartwarming, but there are stories that break your heart. I was in Philadelphia last week at an event that we did with the Eagles. I was talking to one of our program advisors, and she came up to me after I spoke, and she said, "Alexis, the most indelible mark in my mind is on the little boy whom was eating condiments every day. And I would find him eating condiments under his desk because he had no food at home. And it took them 3 months to figure out what to do with his family situation to ensure that he was safe." So let me just say, the stories really range, and it's hard not to be totally captivated by what the power of a kid can do and their authenticity. I'll just quickly say, what do I dream? I like to dream big. And so I have this incredible dream that that everyone will walk out of this room, or who are listening to us today, and they will exercise their influence. And that we will not be 10 years from now talking about the crisis in physical inactivity or the lack of nutrition, that we will have moved the needle. We will have ensured not only that the 73,000 schools that we reach, but the 100,000 schools across this country get the dollars that they need to ensure access to health, access to physical activity. So what does that mean? You know, just think about it. An average school, we give grants from $1,000 to $4,000. Do the math. If it's $1,000, well, we got a lot of money that we need to raise. So I have this dream that we'll have, raised $100 million and keep going.
All right, and what about you, Kat?
Well, first I would like to help you envision what Iran looks like. It is not like America, but most of the girls come from very rural cities and villages where they don't have access to much. But their parents really push for them to come and get involved in football or other sports. So these parents, with whatever little money that they have, which the monthly income is about $80, all right, they send their kids on a bus, or they drive their kids to the camp fields, or if they have enough funds in the bank, they will get a flight for them. So for most, or the majority of my girls, they have a already difficult time trying to get access to the football grounds. So there are a few stories that I can mention about how football has helped them, and the touching stories that has helped me to grow as a coach. There's this one girl, Golnusha Khosrowyar. Father died of cancer, mother has cancer at the moment. So whenever she first would come to training, very timid, very angry, she would like beat the kids up just because she was always frustrated and angry. And then with time, you know, you have to talk to her and you have to educate her that this is not what you do whenever you're angry. If there's problems at the home, when you come to the football grounds, this is the place. All of us are your sisters, your family. You know, you can come talk to us. If you have problems at house, come here. We will help you fix it. So eventually, over the years, Golnush, from pretty much leaving the football grounds and not coming back for a while, she came back a lot stronger. She was like, Coach, I want to come back and I want to come and play for you and for my country. This for me was an incredible miracle because I was doubting her. I was not expecting her to come back after all the hardship that she was facing back in her house. So for her to be able to come back with all of these problems and to go back and help her mother out, even if it's a little bit, that means the world for me. And that's just one story. There are several like her who have issues in their household, or they have issues, personal issues for themselves. I want to make the camp a special place for them, a place where they can come and talk to their teammates, can talk to me, because I'm not a dictator type of coach. They can always come to me and come with all their problems or about the success that they have with their grades at school, with any matter. I want them to come to me. But Golnush's story for me was the most touching because she came back.
Well, I think you each are touching thousands and millions of lives through what you're doing, and I thank you for it personally. It's very inspiring. I think we're going to open up to the audience, Jenny.
Yes. Please raise your hand. Please make sure your question is a question, and we do have people roaming with microphones who will come over to you. So yes, in the center, please.
Thank you all so much. Alexis, I hope you get your $100 million, but in the meantime, why are we not holding our government officials, our elected officials, responsible for all the poverty amongst the children in this country? And if they see, well, Alexis Glick was able to get all this money from private sector, so we don't need to do anything about it, is that a concern for you?
Well, listen, here's what I'd say, because I work hand in glove, as I said, with 3 different government agencies. And I will tell you that I have been blown away by the work that the Department of Agriculture has done. Absolutely remarkable around the school lunch program, trying to grow breakfast participation in the United States and shining a spotlight on it. If you look at the First Lady, there's this thing called Let's Move. She drew attention in the United States. She talked from not only from the White House, but from every perch humanly possible. And she's doing it every week. She was just out last week, once again, talking about the importance of nutrition and physical activity. So in our respective field, I would argue that that if I were to look at this past 8 years, particularly in this administration, one of the organizations I work hand in glove with is the President's Council on Fitness and Nutrition. They rebuilt the Presidential Youth Fitness Program. Not only did they rebuild it, and it's different than the way we know it as kids today, but they have actually had states adopt it and are looking at ways to help kids reach a higher, healthier fitness zone to measure their performance. So I would actually argue that where we are in the government spectrum around their investments, both at the federal and the state level, is actually at a really remarkably positive place. And oh, by the way, what some of you guys might remember, No Child Left Behind, or the Elementary Secondary Education Act, that was just signed back into law after almost 10 years from the Bush administration just signed into law a couple months ago. So the Department of Education now really has the opportunity to go do something about the importance of physical activity in the framework of education. So first, I would just say, I do really feel that our partners in government are doing their part. Now, is there still a very serious issue in our communities around those who are on food stamps, those who are food insecure? You're 100% right, and you see it no place more than in the school building. And what we've seen a lot of institutions do is look to the school building now around what we call joint use agreements. How do you ensure that the school building becomes the center of the community, whereby if this child is coming from only a single parent, and that parent cannot come to take that kid to an after-school program, how does the school building get used for lots of other services to help those kids either get smarter for the classroom after school or get the physical activity that they need that is not occurring within the school building? So what I would say is everyone, parents, I remember when I first came into this, even as a mother of 4 kids, I remember very quickly asking my oldest sons, so just give me a sense, like, when do you eat lunch? What do you eat? Do you have recess? We, I think, as parents and as community leaders, need to start to ask those questions. And the more we ask questions and the more you don't like the answers, we need to be more deliberate in our ability to raise our voice and speak for the student. But we equally as much need to put the student in every meeting, whether it's at the White House, whether it's with a government agency, whether it's in front of a center. We have seen our kids tell government officials like it is better than I could ever do, because they speak from their heart. They'll tell you why the school lunch program isn't working, why the line isn't moving fast enough, why they don't go to the cafeteria for breakfast because they consider it a scarlet letter. So we put kids at the center in those conversations. Finally, I'll just say to you, in regards to the funding piece of it, it has to be, I believe it's 1 + 1 + 1 is far greater than 3. What does that mean? I need the government to help support the funding, I need corporate America to help support the funding, and I need individuals. The more things that we do that demonstrate the importance of the public-private partnership, the more we will educate those in the private sector, and we will help those in the public sector understand how private sector does business without the bureaucracy. Here's some blueprints to success. Let's go do it together. That's my goal.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Oh, yes, right there.
Yes, this is for Alexis. I know that you're very involved with the NFL from seeing the commercials for 360. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on what kind of financial commitment they are willing to commit to your organization. We all know how much tickets cost to go to the games, the Super Bowl, how much the players make. Beyond getting public relations for them, what kind of financial commitments are they willing to do?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and specifically give you down to the dollar amount, but what I can tell you is millions and millions and millions of dollars. A lot of money. So let me help you. So let me give you a couple of things. So not only is it in support of the program and providing grants to schools across the country, that is probably the biggest area of their investment, because as I said, in the spectrum of our grants, we give out $1,000 to $4,000. The average school grant is $2,700. So number one, they're helping us provide grants to schools across the country. And it's not just the NFL. All 32 owners and their teams are providing us grants that are going into the school building. Secondly, let me just share with you another thing. Because oftentimes, I love your question, and you can see I'm so excited by it. It's because oftentimes the stories that you hear in the press are the bad stories and not the good, and this makes me a little crazy, especially in working with them on this, because they have been overtly generous. The second thing is, our programs, we do, I think if you were to look at the exact number, we probably do about 500 events a year. okay? We have 300 players who come into our schools across the country, and those players come in and will reward or incentivize students for healthy behaviors. If a school has made certain steps or a certain amount of students have made certain steps toward healthy behaviors, add to that, we then bus in kids in schools across the country, and they go visit their facilities, the stadiums, the training facilities, and then they'll go meet with the coaches. They'll meet with the trainers. They'll meet with the ownership. So that's another way in which we engage with them in upwards of 500 events a year across the country. And honestly, the list can go on and on. We're blessed in that if you just looked at the media coverage, to your point, of the Play 60 campaign and making folks aware of the importance of playing 60, there's no one who can do that better for us. They have an enormous ability to mobilize folks around the importance of being active for 60 minutes a day. But I have to tell you, I'm not sure that there is another professional sports league that invests more in the school building and in kids than the NFL does. I'm blown away by it. And now I've beat them up to get them there, but they're doing a good job.
Great, thank you. Do we have one other question, maybe from one of our students? Great.
This is for Kat. What can you and other coaches do to get more girls involved, or how do you recruit them without the finance that you need?
Very, very good question. So we have divided Iran into 9 provinces, and we go there. We go find the girls in the middle of the streets, in schools, in indoor football programs. We gather them for a huge festival that takes about a couple days to test them, and we train them there, and that's how we choose our players. At the moment, I know that sounds very medieval, but it works. And we don't have these type of scouting or talent identification programs like there are in the US. And for girls to be even involved in sports is enough for us, and we'll take it because we can bring them into our own system, into our camp, and train them there. So yes, overall, we go there, we find them, and we are like, hey, do you want to play football? And they're like, if I can be Messi, yeah. If I can be Ronaldo, yeah. I'm like, okay, come with us. So that's how we bring our girls. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Please join me in giving a round of applause to our panel. So this now concludes our 4th annual International Women's Day Global Health Symposium. On behalf of the council, we'd like to thank you all for coming and spending the day with us. We are very fortunate to have had such a large and engaged audience here to learn and share their views. I'd also like to thank our speakers and moderators who we relied heavily on to develop conversations that were both educational and useful, but also interesting and engaging. We will continue to explore these issues and ideas on our platform. To our partners, thank you again for your tremendous and consistent support. And finally, I'd like to also take another moment to thank our sponsors who helped make this day possible. Thank you again to Abbott, USG, Citadel, the Frankel Family Foundation, Holtus Trust, Kirkland & Ellis, Ashley McCall, Avery McCall, Skidmore Owings, Merrill. And please pull out your calendars. I don't know if you saw the table in the back, but our own senior fellow, Roger Thoreau, will be doing a program for the council on May 11th for his book, The First 1,000 Days. We're also offering a promotion today that if you pre-order one of his books, you can get 50% off membership at the council. So please see some of my colleagues at the back at the table before you leave the Standard Club today. As well, we have our Chicago Forum on Global Cities happening June 1st through 3rd. So please go online and check out that website so you can see the details there. And mark your calendars because the next Global Health Symposium will be on Friday, March 10th, 2017. So until then, or one of these next events that I mentioned, we are adjourned, but I do look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for being here.